Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
Welcome to Defense News Weekly. In this week's episode, we hear more from Army leadership on the show floor of the Association of the United States Army Conference recently held in Washington. Is industry keeping up with the Army's plan to modernize? Jen Judson asks its top general. Reporter Todd South rounds up the squad tech with some of the latest technology that soldiers and Marines might see. And finally, updates from the defense contracting world with Daniel Woolfolk. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. It's the latest news and analysis from the Pentagon to the platoon, here on Defense News Weekly. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. The Association of the United States Army Conference in Washington showcased some of the latest technology that could see its way to the battlefield. Companies on the show floor brought everything from artillery to robot dogs. Todd South has more.
We just wrapped up the Association of the United States Army's annual meeting and exposition. There's tons of floor show stuff out there, like everything from tanks to small arms and everything in between, lots of software, all kinds of crazy stuff that's built, for the warfighter, for the soldier, and the Marine, actually. And so here's a little bit of a collection of things that we spotted at AUSA that might not have got the coverage they needed. So drones. Drones have been the hot topic of all shapes and sizes and capabilities for more than a decade or so now. But they're getting smaller, they're getting new kind of ways of doing things with drones. They've got these backpack-launched, tube-launched drones where you can put two on a person and basically have a loitering munition for a soldier pretty much at any time, pretty lightweight. They've even got legged robotics, like a robot dog that has a drone perched on its back. So you have your little robot dog go out there and then launch the drone, the short-range drone, for you. They've even got anti-drone stuff, like drones with their own nets to capture other drones. And some pretty cool devices and pretty interesting ways of both getting after the use of drones and protection against drones. And on the bigger gun side, the mobile howitzer question is still really being debated. We have tracked versions, some other countries have wheeled versions, but from the 155 level even down into smaller artillery ranges, there are options for different ways of doing vehicles plus artillery, keeping it mobile, keeping it safe. And the reason is because new adversaries such as Russia and China and perhaps even Iran or North Korea are going to have tons of different ways of striking armored platforms, and you got to be able to shoot quickly, move those artillery, and keep those guns firing. It's also just a grab bag of things we spotted at AUSA that kind of deserve a little attention maybe. One is, of course, the Naval Strike Missile. It's basically becoming as important or more important than the rifle to the Marines. It's the way they're going to kill ships and prove their worth and prove their mettle in the Pacific and really contribute to the joint fight. Smaller items such as metal detectors that also detect carbon fiber. You could honestly make carbon fiber devices, landmines, or IED type devices that really couldn't be detected by traditional older generation metal detectors. These new ones can do both, really can provide some safety for the soldier, at least some awareness, situational awareness of what's on the ground or under the ground in front of them. Also, ammunition. Tons of different options of ammunition, different things for AT-4 rocket launchers, recoilless rifles, different types of grenade launchers. There's a particular 40mm grenade launcher called the Hellhound, basically twice the punch of a standard 40mm grenade launcher, really built for urban combat to get that high explosion when you have a lot of different concrete barriers around and not as much airspace to work with as you would, let's say, in the woods or the desert. So ammo options galore, really. And lastly, of course, there's the CROWS system, the Common Remote Operated Weapon System. Basically, it's a way for soldiers and Marines to stay in the vehicle and fire their weapons remotely, whether that's a missile, a machine gun, or a grenade launcher. So they're not on top taking fire while delivering fire. They can actually sit in the safety of the vehicle and shoot and use cameras to spot targets and even use thermal and other types of sights to spot targets better and really defeat the enemy when they need to. So now let's talk about handguns, Glock and SIG. They've been competitors for a while, and there's new information on that front. A few years ago, the Army adopted the modular handgun system with the M17 and M18 9mm from SIG Sauer. Now that beat out competition from Glock for the wider Army and for the Marine Corps and for the Air Force and the Navy. However, special operators have chosen to stick with the Glock. They've got all types of options. They just did a large-scale contract for the Glock 17, 19, and 26 models. Now, Delta Force, many years ago, first adopted the Glock 22 in a 40 caliber, but then later shifted to the Glock 19, as did the other special operators, the Navy SEALs, Marines using for concealed carry, and also the MARSOC or the Raiders. So basically, almost all their special operations are carrying the Glock, even though conventional soldiers are going with the 6-hour. So still some competition there, even though the big competition was a couple years ago. So there's still ways for Glock to stay in the game. In the electronic gear side of things, some two small items that could be of great use for the soldier is Thales released a new handheld radio, lighter, a little more robust antenna strength and communication and receiving, and also they have a new GPS-denied environment navigation system. Essentially, it looks like a body cam on the front of the soldier that pretty much guides them around the battlefield when GPS can't be found. So a helpful tool if navigation is a difficulty.
Thanks, Todd. And in other news around the military, Indian soldiers in Alaska, the Army is hosting the foreign troops in the interior for a biannual exercise between the two nations. The joint training was formerly held in Washington, but leaders said the focus is shifting to cold weather and mountain fighting. Next year, they're headed for the Himalayas. And on Capitol Hill, Senate appropriators unveiled plans to add about $24 billion in spending to the 2022 military budget. The 2022 proposal includes a 2.7% pay raise for all troops starting in January. The first Black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Secretary of State has died. Colin Powell was a beloved military leader and trailblazer who served under Democrat and Republican presidents, and whose legacy also includes a now infamous speech that helped pave the way for the Iraq War. He died Monday morning due to complications related to COVID-19, according to his family. He was 84 years old. And that's it for your military headlines. Coming up, the unmanned aerial systems shown off at AUSA and the latest contracting headlines. Next on Defense News Weekly.
The military and defense market is constantly evolving. Stay on top of the latest news with Sightline Media Group's live events. Continue to learn, understand new tools and technologies.
We're live. You're on in 3.
Defense, government, and industry leaders come together for successful and proven engaging events. You'll gain valuable insight, get the chance to ask questions, all from the comfort of your own home or office. Sign up for our events newsletters and receive alerts for upcoming live streams.
Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. The AUSA conference showcased several unmanned aerial systems. To see what industry is offering and how it will affect soldiers, Jen Judson rounds up the contenders.
The competition to replace the Textron-manufactured Shadow unmanned aircraft system is heating up. The Army formally asked industry late this summer to submit bids in order to rapidly buy a first lot of aircraft to field 8 brigade combat teams. And those bids are due at the end of October. That will be followed by another competition where vendors will compete to supply the rest of the BCTs with new future tactical UAS. With the service racing to replace Shadow, it comes as no surprise that companies brought a variety of future tactical UAS offerings to the Association of the U.S. Army's annual conference in Washington, D.C. These aircraft might look familiar, as the Army has spent well over a year evaluating them with soldiers in the field and at a rodeo held earlier this year. But some are being upgraded to compete for the second increment of the Army's competition. To help it evaluate requirements, the Army selected 4 UAS in 2019 and handed them back over to soldiers to use and provide feedback on each system. The feedback helped shape how the service would choose requirements and how it formulates tactics, techniques, and procedures for a future system. Martin UAV and Northrop Grumman teamed up to provide Martin UAV's VBAT UAS. Textron's Aeroson HQ was also picked, as well as Arcturus UAV's Jump 20 system. L3Harris supplied the FER-90. The Army is looking for revolutionary new capability that's not tied to a runway, has a lower acoustic signature, lower equipment requirements, and can be transported organically within a unit. Textron plans to offer its most mature combat-ready system demonstrated at the rodeo and through soldier evaluation with some increased payload. That system has over 550,000 flight hours through contracts with other services. But the aircraft Textron brought to the show is a newer version of the Aerosonde UAS, a hybrid quadcopter that retains the expeditionary footprint, transportability, and agility the Army's looking for, but upsizes it to carry additional payload. It also has a new engine, increasing its horsepower. Textron plans to submit that for the second increment of the competition. Martin UAV, since the rodeo, has a new owner, Shield AI. The company has teamed up with Northrop for the first step of the competition, but it's unclear if that partnership will extend to the second phase. Northrop and Shield AI are offering up the latest variant of the UAS that includes improvements such as satellite communications and a laser designator that are part of the U.S. Special Operations Command's program. VBAT was recently selected for that program. Earlier this year, AeroVironment purchased Arcturus UAV, bringing the JUMP 20 aircraft to AUSA. The company highlighted the system's ability to swap payloads with ease. L3Harris will also compete in both increments of the Army competition and will submit the FVR-90 hybrid quadcopter in both phases. While no other companies were spotted at AUSA with future tactical UAS offerings, the second increment will be fully open and any vendor with a system can submit a bid. The Army is planning to conduct a fly-off as part of that and is yet to decide the down-select process. The Army released a request for white papers on October 1st, opening up the second increment of the competition. In order to move into purchasing a UAS for Increment 1, the Army's waiting to see if Congress will provide it with extra funding it did not budget in fiscal year 2022. But it included it on a wish list sent to the Hill for consideration. The Army will have a mixed tactical UAS fleet. Future tactical UAS is only going to brigade combat teams. Shadows will remain with combat aviation brigades, but will be upgraded to a Block 3 configuration. For Defense News, this is Jen Judson.
Thanks, Jen. And now for defense industry headlines. Japan has launched the second of a new class of diesel-electric submarines. This comes a year after the lead boat of the lithium-ion powered series was launched. Kawasaki Heavy Industries Shipyard launched a Hakugai, or white whale. The first boat of the class, the Taigai, was launched a year ago and began sea trials this summer. It's expected to be commissioned in March. The top space executive at Lockheed Martin said he's retiring. Rick Ambrose is the company's executive vice president for space and led the unit for 8 years. Lockheed Martin delivered some of the U.S. Space Force's most significant satellites and systems. Ambrose made the announcement on October 7th, saying that he plans to help make a smooth transition and he'll stay until March 1st. He oversaw the company's $11 billion space portfolio and counted with customers such as NASA and most recently Space Force. His team delivered several missile warning and GPS satellites. It also won a contract to build some of the first satellites for the Space Development Agency. The Air Force's next electronic warfare aircraft made its very first flight. Contractor L3Harris Technologies says the EC-37B Compass Call is on track to be delivered to the Air Force next year for testing. The current version of the aircraft was in operation the past 2 decades in the Middle East. It was used to jam communications and bomb transmissions of forces such as the Taliban and the Islamic State. Airframes for the existing aircraft are aging, with some dating back to the Vietnam War. L3Harris won a 2017 contract to move the electronic warfare equipment to the new airframe, a Gulfstream G550 business jet. BAE System handles the electronic warfare components of the Compass Call. Aerospace companies from Israel and South Korea are expanding their partnership to develop drone technology aimed to kill enemy air defenses. Israel Aerospace Industries announced that it is teaming up with Korea Aerospace Industries. The two signed a memorandum of understanding on Wednesday on a loitering munitions program. Loitering munitions combine the capabilities of drones and missiles by searching and identifying targets before launching themselves onto them. In March, the two companies signed an initial agreement to collaborate on the munitions. And that's it in industry news. When we return, we get tips from personal finance expert Jeanette Mack.
On this edition of Money Minute, Navy Federal Credit Union personal finance expert Jeanette Mack gives her latest tips.
Buying a home can be an exciting journey. In a competitive market, it's really important to be on your A game. So start the mortgage process before you go house hunting. It's better to know what your options are and what you can afford before you get caught up in the listings. Know your credit score and research lenders to check interest rates for the loan that fits your needs. Many lenders have online calculators to help you gauge your projected mortgage payments and purchasing power. You'll also want to get in touch with a bank or credit union early to get pre-approved. Having a relationship with a potential lender will make you more comfortable with the loan process, and their pre-approval shows sellers you're a serious buyer. And by all means, use a real estate agent. They can tell you upfront what type of market you're walking into and help guide you through contracts and negotiations. Buyers who prepare ahead of time with a lender and real estate agent will likely have a leg up, and in a competitive market, that's everything.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next week. To get more military and defense news, be sure to check out Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps Times.com and DefenseNews.com for the latest coverage. And to get a list of top stories in your email every weekday, subscribe to our Early Bird Brief. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And when we come back, a conversation with the Chief of Staff of the Army. Stay tuned. The Army has a goal of turning into a multi-domain service by 2035. That goal is hard enough for the service to meet. Will industry keep up? Jen Judson asked that question and more to the Chief of Staff of the Army.
All right, well, how has the show been for you? This is our time to be back after being virtual a year ago and to see all those old faces, familiar faces around the showroom floor and engage with industry. So what are you seeing out here in the exhibit halls that you think encourages you as you look to modernize the Army? And this is your chance after 40 years of not modernizing to do so. So is industry stepping up?
No, absolutely. I think it's been a great show. What I'm really excited about is the innovation that industry is showing. Our new way of going after new systems is not to come out with these very prescriptive requirement documents. So we're putting out characteristics, we're telling industry what we think we need, and they're coming back with some great solutions.
What are some of the things that you're seeing? I personally observed a lot of modular open system architecture solutions, and also lots of new electric versions of things, looking at alternative fuel. What are some of the themes that you're seeing that industry is bringing in response to some of the things that you are focusing on?
Well, as we've talked about, we are very interested in systems that have speed, they have range, and convergence, and that's what we're getting to when we talk about decision dominance. It comes to overmatch, but we're seeing lots of different industries step up on that. If we're going to do long-range fires, we got to be able to target. So some very innovative ways of providing targeting. Everyone understands that the systems have to be able to link in and come together, so all the sensors are tied to some type of command system that can get to the right shooter. So we see industry really stepping up and getting after that. And as you said, we're interested in reducing fuel on our vehicles, so there's a lot of electrification going on. There's a lot of hybrid models, and all those are very, very helpful for us.
Absolutely. Obviously, it's been tough on everyone in the pandemic, but how has that affected the supply chain in terms of meeting your modernization priorities? For instance, the improved turbine engine program is a little delayed due to some situations with the pandemic. Are there any other programs that you're watching that are causing a little bit of concern to you in terms of meeting schedule deadlines now, just due to coping in the pandemic?
No, I don't. But I think industry has been challenged. We've been talking to our industry partners. They're certainly very, very concerned about the supply chain. Things are a lot harder under the pandemic. But I've been really impressed with how industry is overcoming these challenges, and we're working very closely to make these happen. So that I'm not aware of any that are going to fall behind because of the pandemic.
Yeah, and I should walk back on saying that ITIP is delayed. It's actually just not able to accelerate
well,
as much.
Well, that's a different.
Right?
I want to give them, because they'll be
that.
quick to correct that. That's exactly, because we're asking industry to accelerate many of their programs, and many are when we take a look at what they're doing.
Yes, absolutely. The Army outlines its modernization priorities under your leadership, and you've staunchly protected those priorities, and also how they rank. Is that getting a fresh look now? As we're also coming out with a new national defense strategy, do you think that the priorities in the program should get a look at? Should you look at how to organize those differently?
Well, I think we're always taking looks at what we're doing. As we talk about the budget, we're going to give the best Army we can with the resources that we get. But we're strong believers in the future systems, the 31 plus 4. We certainly know our priority, but what we're doing in the Army is we're taking a look at, like, we're all where the big bins of money are. With when it comes to end strength and force structure, when it comes to readiness, when it comes to modernization, we're taking a hard look everywhere because we do want to modernize the Army.
Absolutely. And obviously the Army Secretary has said similar things, that you're going to take a hard look, and now is the time to make these difficult decisions. There's no more time to defer those, and so now you're engaging again in an analysis kind of across the board of readiness, modernization, infrastructure.
Right.
Is the Army willing to consider reducing end strength at this point? You've been adamant earlier this year that end strength should not go lower than it is budgeted for in the FY22 request. Does that still hold true to you today? I mean, budget analysts have said, it's only a matter of time before you're really going to have to choose between potentially reducing end strength or taking an appetite suppressant on the modernization front. So how are you approaching that issue, that inflection point that's coming down?
Well, I think when we look at the Army, and I get back to what I said, is we're trying to deliver the best Army we can with the resources we have. So, part of it is end strength, part of that is readiness, part is modernization. So we are looking at every one of those major programs and seeing where, what gives us the best return on investment.
Okay.
I mean, when it comes to end strength, I believe we need at least the end strength we have. I'm on record saying we need a bigger Army, but at the same time, I have an Army that's ready. And I also have to have an Army ready for the future, which is modernization.
Right.
So it really comes back around to how do we deliver the best Army you can with the resources we have.
Okay. Let's talk about getting there, delivering those 31 plus 4 priority programs. You are getting to a really exciting time with this. We're going to see 24, I believe, systems in the hands of soldiers in FY23. You've got, I think, 11 more to go, if I'm doing the math right. Talk about, how you're getting to, beyond FY23 with these 11 more programs. What's the reason why you're not able to field more in FY23? Is it technology development isn't there? Is it the money isn't there? You can only pay for so many things
I would
at
come
once.
back and say, wait a minute, this is 24 systems. And you think about that. Again, when you take a look at the history of fielding system, I mean, to field 24 systems of this type that quickly, I think it's incredible. But here's the thing. You take a look, the systems aren't quite ready to be fielded, like future long-range assault aircraft. Well, we're picking a prototype, within the next year. That's pretty amazing to go with how quick we've done that. And and so we're flying before we're buying, we're driving before we buy also. And in the process we're doing is by, taking a very progressive approach, where we come up with an initial concept, we do a detailed design, we go to prototyping. That way as we move through the process, we don't end up with a system after we spend a lot of money that we don't want.
Right.
And so we feel very comfortable with the way we're doing it. It takes a while to build new aircraft, because these are transformational aircraft. It's going to take time to build a transformational next generation combat vehicle, and we want to spend the time to make sure we get it right.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully virtual AOSA is a thing of the past,
That's
never
right.
to be repeated again.
That would be great.
Thank you so much for joining
Yeah,
me.
thank you for having me. Thanks, Jim.
And that's all we have time for this week. Please visit us on militarytimes.com and defensenews.com for more coverage. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.